Hello, my name is Dr. Corey Wren, and I'm a vegan sociologist, a vegan feminist, and a vegan witch. And in this short video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what vegan witchcraft is all about. So on this channel, I will be exploring the various theories and topics in greater detail. I'll do deep dives. But if you just want to quickly understand what the heck vegan witchcraft is, this is the video for you. So I came to witchcraft when I was quite young, and when I went to university, there was a time where I stepped away from it, and then when I went to graduate school, completed my PhD, and basically entered adulthood, I came back to it. And in the time that had passed between when I was first really into witchcraft as a young teenager and now as a woman in my 30s, a lot had changed. When I was 13, when I really first got into witchcraft, that was also the time when I turned vegetarian. But by the time I went to university, I had gone vegan. And so now I've been vegan for almost 25 years. But a lot had changed in those years, for now I was recognizing what speciesism was, the systematic discrimination against other animals, widespread oppressive violence against non-human animals. And so unfortunately, when I came back to witchcraft as a adult woman, I was finding that a lot of speciesism unfortunately permeated witchcraft theory, spell books, grimoires, etc. I found this to be really strange because one of the main reasons modern witchcraft has materialized and really taken off and become so popular is because I would argue it is inherently feminist, anti-oppressive, sees a magical sort of solidarity with other animals, and certainly sees power in the elements and in nature. So it really didn't make sense to me then that modern witchcraft discourse was on one hand saying that, yeah, we have this great relationship with nature and other animals, and we're feminist and anti-oppression. And then on the other hand, when you look at a lot of the spells, they will call for non-vegan ingredients, maybe beeswax candles, just because beeswax is considered to be more close to nature, even though wouldn't soy also be? Bones on altars, or on feasting days for the Sabbaths, almost every single one will call for dead animals on the feasting table. And this to me just did not make sense. It was not congruent with the values of witchcraft that I had grown up with. Most notably, most fundamentally, do no harm. And so as I entered my late 30s, I started to really grapple with this and thought that maybe it was worth systematically investigating and critically analyzing. And so that's what would become my book, Vegan Witchcraft. And in this book, I basically went down the list of all the very important foundational seminal texts in modern witchcraft from folks like Starhawk, Scott Cunningham, Gerald Gardner, etc., etc. And I wanted to see how they talked about animals. And what I found pretty much confirmed what my suspicions had been. The more systematically I looked at it, the more clear there was a pattern. That on one hand, modern witchcraft is saying that non-human animals, we have a magical relationship with them, we have this great solidarity with them, and that nature is so great and a source of wonderful power and confidence and all this kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, well, animals are ours to use. And in a lot of cases, a lot of these important leaders in the witchcraft movement, leading authors, were not just skeptical of vegetarianism or veganism and animal rights, but sometimes downright derogatory. So for instance, Starhawk is probably my favorite witch author. I've read just about everything she's ever written. Unfortunately, Starhawk, who touts herself as this great ecofeminist, who very much so is in tune with nature and wild animals, is not vegan. And not only is she not vegan, but she's, in her writing, when she does mention veganism, she basically says it's bad for the environment, it's bad for us, and whatever else. Not based on any evidence, of course. It's just because she doesn't want to give up her privilege. She wants to eat animals. But that's just one example of many. So that's one of the main themes of the book. I look into kitchen witchery, for instance, and how plant magic is really revered, and yet meat magic, if you will, believe it or not, is not. It's kind of intuitively understood that meat or dead matter makes for dead magic. And most of the time in kitchen witchcraft books, you see plants and herbs that are being celebrated for their life-giving properties and their energy and their capacity to turn sun and earth into usable energy for us, and helps us to grow and regenerate and all this kind of stuff, which is it's awesome and quite magical indeed. But on the other hand, you very rarely will see any kind of mention of how eating dead animals would achieve the same thing. So it's sort of intuitively known in a lot of the witchcraft discourse that eating other animals is sort of counterintuitive to what we hope to achieve. Another thing that I look at in the book is the concept of the familiar. This is perhaps the most obvious connection that witchcraft has with non-human animals. Historically, the use of familiars was quite unique to Great Britain. So in a lot of the cases where people would be accused of witchcraft, of course, those would be disproportionately women. They would be accused by way of some kind of relationship with an animal, usually a domesticated animal. The idea being that they were sharing a home with them, that they were sharing food with them, that they were getting up to no good with them, and even sometimes witches could transfigure into these animals or vice versa. And so basically what was happening was, it was this relationship between women and non-human animals on the margins of society, because oftentimes these were unmarried women, divorced women, widowed women, elderly women, etc. This relationship between women and other animals became a point of suspicion, a threat, if you will. That is, by the way, a stereotype that persists with us today. You only need to look at the Donald Trump election when J.D. Vance was making all these comments about old cat ladies not having families and just choosing their cats over children. But what is kind of cool, though, is that with the contemporary witchcraft movement, what happened was that women reclaimed that trope and said, this is not something to be ashamed of. This is not a marker of stigma. This is a marker of pride. So just giving the example with Taylor Swift, for instance, when J.D. Vance made that comment, she posted pictures of her cats on her Instagram account and said, yeah, I'm proud of it. Well, the witchcraft movement has basically been doing the same thing, taking this deviant, so-called deviant relationship with non-human animals and flipping that and saying, actually, this is a form of solidarity, community, family, kinship, and it's a source of power. Sounds great, right? But when I was systematically looking through the witchcraft discourse, unfortunately what I found was that by and large, when non-human animals are discussed in familiar magic and animal magic, sometimes shamanic magic, they're really reduced to objects. And this is done in at least two ways. Number one, a lot of times the familiars will be reduced to sort of totemic magic. Pigs are like this, or chickens are like that, or tigers are like this. And these stereotypes that are very anthropocentric come to represent all individual animals within a particular species. So just to give you an example, with wolves are a very powerful sort of spirit animal in familiar magic. And the idea is like the lone wolf out in the world and doesn't need anyone, and they're tough, and it's a kind of human ideals, right, that we're imposing on wolves, this one particular image of a wolf that's now responsible for all wolves. So in that way, it's quite speciesist in that we're objectifying non-human animals for human wants. And the other way that I see speciesism taking place in familiar magic is through the idea that they are vehicles for human wants, that they are servants. So although in a lot of the discourse, familiars will be discussed as partners or colleagues, companions, when you really look at what they're seeing the familiar doing, the familiar is existing to serve the human. They can be called on, they can be manifested. And the idea is you treat your familiar well. In some cases, they at least say that, treat your familiar well, and then they will do your bidding without complaint. But this is a master-servant role. The idea that non-human animals exist just to be vehicles for us, or just to be objects for us to fill in whatever desires we want, that's not respectful of non-human animals as individuals. So very, very rarely do you see any sort of animal magic that actually sees non-human animals as equals, or even more rare, say that in this familiar relationship, humans will do the biddings of other animals, which is kind of what vegan witchcraft is asking us to do, is to not only see non-human animals as our equals, but also from time to time, it's not just what animals can give us, it's what we can give other animals. So vegan witchcraft is explicitly a social justice approach, a social justice path to witchcraft for that reason. And there's lots more subtopics that I could explore in this video, but perhaps one more that I can leave you with is the relationship between green witchcraft and veganism or non-human animals. So green witchcraft, it has kind of a nebulous past. A lot of it comes from British sort of pagan tradition of folk magic, but a lot of it also owes itself to the ecofeminist tradition of American witchcraft of the 1970s. And the idea basically here is that we're finding power, especially for women. It was wrapped up in the feminist movement and the idea that we can reclaim women's power, reclaim women's history, reclaim women's connection to the earth and to nature. And unfortunately, in that, what I found is that, yeah, this sounds pretty great. Like, this is a great antidote to patriarchal religions and how they've tried to alienate women from nature, alienate women from everyone else, basically, and demonize and animalize them. So ecofeminist witchcraft, or green witchcraft, whichever you'd like to call it, offers something really amazing and new. Unfortunately, in trying to reclaim women's power and place in history, what I found is in a lot of the myth-making, the theology, if you will, of green witchcraft, it actually tries to reclaim a lot of patriarchal systems of oppression. So several of the leading scholars or leading witches will make claims that women actually are responsible for domestication. So what is one of the most fundamentally evil systems of oppression ever known on this planet, that being domestication, is deeply patriarchal. And it is factually patriarchal because we had a much more gender equal society and species equal society before domestication came in and basically said, now we understand paternity, now we need to control, now reproduction will be controlled, and now women's status and animal status will drop as a result. Why do women want to claim that back? That actually has been responsible not only for a lot of history of harm to women and other animals, but it was fundamentally an idea of nature is ours to control and use for our wants and to be manipulated. And so I don't see why green witchcraft would want anything to do with reclaiming that. Instead, I think we should move towards reclaiming the gathering side of things. So indeed, we also see quite a lot of sacrifice language, hunting language in green witchcraft, a celebration of great goddess sacrifices, which is ironic to me because the goddess is supposed to be manifest in animals, and oftentimes the goddess is represented as an animal. So why would we want to celebrate sacrificing her? That's more patriarchal nonsense that was created by men to try to disempower women. But yeah, the great hunt has also been reclaimed by green witchcraft, ecofeminist witchcraft. And again, this is about as patriarchal as you can get, that other bodies are there to be hunted down and to kill for our wants. Human beings, this is the facts, human beings are not natural meat eaters. We've culturally adapted to eat flesh of other animals, but we do not biologically require it, and for much of human history have not consumed it. So these are recent patriarchal introductions into our culture. And if witchcraft is what I think it is, it should be about reclaiming that amazing connection that we have to nature that is more symbiotic, less violent, and really truly sees solidarity with nature and other animals. So there's just some of what vegan witchcraft is all about. And what I'm doing on this channel is to start to explore some of these theories, push back on some of these histories, and hopefully start to create something new, because it's not enough to just knock something down, to just critique witchcraft all day long, but I also want to see, well, what can we build back up in its place? And in fact, I see witchcraft as having a lot of value and a lot of promise for a multi-species future. And to that end, I'm also an animal rights activist. I've been an animal rights activist perhaps longer than I've been into witchcraft. And as I get older, I'm now in my 40s, and as I get older, It's becoming more and more difficult for me to grapple with this sort of mental load, the emotional toll of the work that I do, because the main work that I do is in speciesist research. I'm an animal rights theorist. And I've found that over the past few years that witchcraft has been a very important source of comfort, ritual, self-care, emotional maintenance. And I actually believe that it's not just about what veganism can offer to the witchcraft community. I'm wondering, what actually can witchcraft as a practice offer back to the vegan community and to animal rights activists, especially because so many of us are women and so many of us are passionate about nature and non-human animals. Well, why not start to tune back in to the elements around us, to the cosmos above us, to the seasons that are changing around us? So tonight, for instance, I'm recording this, the full moon is about to rise. I'm cognizant of that. I'm aware of its impacts. And just being aware of that, and I'll probably practice a ritual around it tonight, but doing something even that simple, being aware of it, maybe doing something in honor of it, helps me to remember that the world still turns and that I'm still here and that nature is resilient. And in the face of all the horrible things that I have to deal with in my line of work, I think that that is a wonderful, wonderful form of solace. So thanks for watching this far, and I hope that you'll be part of this conversation. Definitely comment below. Let me know what you think about these radical ideas. I'm sure I've pushed some buttons. That's kind of what I do best. And I'm hoping that this can be a collaborative effort and we can start thinking about new theories together. We can start creating new histories and reclaim witchcraft for what I believe it was intended to do, and that is for collective liberation, self and community healing. So while you're here, please don't forget to hit subscribe. YouTube loves that. And do like the video. YouTube likes that as well. And then if you could check out some of the other videos, I have one coming up right here for you to check out. And I will be posting videos regularly. I'll try to post once a week. So thank you for joining me on this vegan witchcraft path. I'm so glad to have you here.